report found that Gates engaged in a long list of conduct that violates House rules and some actions that could be criminal offenses on the state level. The committee said Gates made a number of payments that were most likely connected to sexual activity or drug use, but the former congressman has denied any wrongdoing. And yet, former Trump advisor Steve Bannon wants Gates to make a comeback, saying, quote, Gates must return like Trump returned. Don't back down, double down. Back with me now is former Democratic Congressman Max Rose. Thanks so much for being here again. So, Congressman, what do you make of this support for Matt Gaetz among Trump allies? And do you think he'll be able to really have a run for office, especially after now this report comes out with all of these allegations?
Yeah, and Merry Christmas, by the way. You know, this is a pretty sick and disturbing thing to think about, that there could be such clear evidence that someone did these things also while they were a member of Congress with that significant personal responsibility, but also that they could conceivably have a political future thereafter. That speaks to two things right now. One, the nature of the current MAGA base, right, which is not the nature of the general political voting populace, but is the nature of this kind of very angry, aggressive political base that just wants to see someone continue to fight and push back against the establishment. Facts be damned. But what I also think that this points to, and this is a very nuanced idea because it in no way condones anything that Gaetz has ever done or anything to that matter, but it is that voters generally want to see fighters. And that's what I think a guy like Matt Gaetz is relying on. In the end, though, I don't see a political future for this guy because, you know, Donald Trump seems to be in many ways a singular political character. And, who knows if anyone can replicate his type of political comeback, his type of political resurgence. It seems much more likely that Matt Gaetz is resigned to a brief year doing cameo hits for $400, $500 a pop, and then moving increasingly more into political obscurity.
Well, Matt Gaetz, of course, isn't the only one considering his future. There's also, of course, House Speaker Mike Johnson, whose speakership really is in peril and hangs in the balance less than 10 days before the House votes on the speaker for the next Congress. So yesterday I spoke with Republican Congressman Tim Burchett about the role Donald Trump could play in that race. Take a listen to part of that conversation.
Politics plays into it, and Donald J. Trump is the biggest dog in the pound right now. And I think he's going to make a huge decision in this, and he will sway a lot of people. Let's look at the reality. What are we going to have, a 3-person majority or a 5-person majority, whatever? A good case of the flu, ma'am, and the Democrats are back in the majority. So I think the reality is that he knows he's going to have to work with us. And you know good and well there's not a Democrat out there that will work with President Trump unless they switch parties.
So, Max, how big of a role do you expect President-elect Trump to play in this speakership vote?
Well, all evidence points to Donald Trump actually liking Speaker Johnson as a person, so it makes it increasingly less likely that he's going to really rock the boat here. But there are larger political dynamics in the Republican Party at play than just Speaker Johnson, in fact, than just even Donald Trump. We have to remember there were 38 Republicans that just stood up a matter of a week or two ago in open defiance of Donald Trump, the leader of their own party, when it came to voting for this CR because they did not want to vote for continued increased government spending. They did that in open rebellion and opposition to Donald Trump, even though they also consider themselves the center of this MAGA base. This was the same group of people that pushed Kevin McCarthy out. It's why, in many ways, the only way that this very slim Republican majority is going to be able to get anything done that is productive in any way, shape, and form in the House that could pass a filibuster in the Senate, remember that's 60 votes, is going to be with the consent of Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of the Democratic members of Congress, or at least a majority of those members. It doesn't matter if that's Speaker Johnson or any other speaker. Those same dynamics will be in place because you have these 20 or 30 members of the Republican House that are basically want to burn the House down. That's their nature. does not matter who the speaker is.
Yeah, well, definitely something that we're going to be watching closely. So thank you so much, former Congressman Mac Rose, for coming on.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And next, we're live in Atlanta, where volunteers at